moderator for our town hall meetings. Ross, go ahead.
Okay, let's check out the other three on. You saw it? There you go.
There we go. Okay, can you hear me? Thank you all for staying for the town hall meeting. We know that this is kind of a late addition with the timing of the board meeting right after the new year, but I appreciate everybody coming tonight. We have a couple things that we do want to talk about. For about the last 3 weeks, maybe more, 4 or 5 weeks, the board's been working on what the ballot's going to look like for the March election. The good news and bad news with the way that we do finances with Pecan Plantation is that a lot of it is driven by committees. We're very fortunate to have some very good committees that do really good work and are very thorough in the work that they put together. We have 7 committees that have come to the board with requests for funding of their various projects. Those projects are broad, some of them are expensive, and we're taking a look at which projects we think that we can afford to fund through a ballot initiative for next year. The projects that we're looking at are things, again, that are committee-driven. They've gone through the long-range planning process. They've gone through the camp process. We've looked at it. We know that the estimates that they've given us are accurate. The projects are probably a 5 to 7 year time frame. They're not all going to happen in 2018. These are large projects in some cases. The bottom line is we're going to be asking for, we think, a $9 per member assessment to cover these projects. And we should have that information out to all of you soon. And we hope that you'll read those, seriously consider what we're asking, and hopefully approve the assessment increase. Now, I might mention, if we were to take a look at the assessments in 2013, and use the Department of Labor Statistics inflation indicator, it would say that our assessments right now should be about $147 a month. We're currently at $140 a month. That difference is about $225,000 a year that we should have been receiving for the last 4 or 5 years if we had kept up with inflation. So we're going to look for an assessment increase this year that really doesn't get us forward. It gets us to where we should be today. We have kind of an accordion reaction to our finances. When we have a good year economically, a good year with home sales and Pecan Plantation, we have a lot of extra cash. When we have bad years like we had in 2008 and 2009 and 2010 and 2011 and 2012, we don't have that infusion of new cash from new people moving into Pecan Plantation. Those years cause us to deplete the resources that we have, and then about every 5 years we go and ask members for an assessment increase. Those assessment increases really aren't getting us ahead. They're just getting us to where we need to be right now. So we're still working on it. We haven't decided exactly what the amount's going to be. We haven't decided which projects that we're going to move forward. Again, these are probably projects that will last 3 to 5 years, or 5 to 7 years as we look down the road. So that's kind of what's going on with the assessment. And the ballot initiatives, we'll have more coming out. Hopefully, we're going to finish it tomorrow morning and get it out to membership as quickly as we can. Okay? Yeah, and anybody on the board want to make a comment?
Could I also say something? On the ballot, besides this initiative, there'll be some bylaw changes. Bob Cote mentioned one about making the internal audit a function of the bylaws rather than just a policy, which this board is in support of, and hopefully the membership understands the value of that. There are also 2 other changes to the bylaws. Right now, the nominating committee of the bylaws, that language is going to be changed because that nominating committee became a year-round committee. And the other one that's going to be changed in the bylaws is membership. Membership right now is a bylaw in the bylaws, and the membership committee that currently exists now does not function like it states in the bylaws, and legally it can't do what it says in the bylaws. So to be in compliance with Texas law, we're going to make that change and have that become a policy. So those are some other things that are going to be in the ballot for you to consider and vote on.
I'd like to ask Vince to talk about some conversations he's had with our attorneys.
Thank you, Ross. Some people have complained that the board and management have not been fully transparent. We could probably sit here the rest of the night and debate that topic, but one topic some people have been most vocal about are employees, particularly management, salaries and wages. Some people have said they aren't going to vote to fund any projects in Pecan Plantation unless the board discloses more information about salaries and wages of our management and staff. And some people have suggested filing an open records request through which to seek such information. We are governed by our own bylaws and policies as well as Texas state law. The Texas Property Code provides what records of the association owners are entitled to inspect. Information related to an employee of the association, including personnel files, are exempt from inspection under the Texas Property Code. Finally, because our PPOA is not a governmental entity, we are exempt under the Open Meetings and Open Records Acts from being subject to open records requests. And we've received opinion letters from the PPOA lawyer stating such. Thank you, Ross.
Okay, thank you, Vince. Earlier, Michael mentioned the gate entry system. I'd just like to remind people, again, this is a project we've been working on for about a year. It's taken us a while to get through all the phases of this, but we're ready to roll that out hopefully by the end of February, end of March. That will provide better access for you to the guests that you're bringing in. You'll be able to go online, create a profile. You can put all your kids and regular visitors that you want to come into the association. You won't need to call every time they're coming. They'll just have to give them your name. If they're on your profile sheet as authorized to come in, then they'll be able to come in. If you have guests, you can call them in the way we had before, but as Michael said, we'll have an answering machine, so if nobody answers it, you leave a message, and when your guest comes in and says, I'm here to see Michael Bartholomew, they open up Michael Bartholomew's account record, and the guard can actually listen to the recording and say, yes, I want this person to come in. You'll be able to do it through your cell phone, you'll be able to do it through your computer, tablets. There's going to be a lot of functionality. We think it'll make our gate entry system more effective. We'll also have another layer of security because we're going to be collecting more information about the people who come into Pecan Plantation. We'll have driver's licenses as well as their license plates, so we have a better idea if there are people in here, who's in here, and what they're here for. So we'll come out, we'll make some training available to you as we go forward, so I wanted you to know about that. I asked Joe Hartman to talk about a little bit about electronic voting.
We have formed, I got to walk around, I can't just sit, a subgroup off of the board that's studying electronic voting of the future. Now, part of the problem with that is that we have to do some work with our own bylaws and change it and make sure that we are in compliance with both the federal and state regulations. So it's an ongoing process. It's not going to be here for this election. I'm sorry, we tried, but there's no way we can get this done smoothly and have a good education program on how to do it and be ready to go by March. So we are working through it. We're going to do some sample testing. Once we get the bylaws and everything in compliance, then we'll be able to start moving forward quickly. And there are 3 companies that we are working with to have that in the future. One of the requirements we want to make sure is that we have good security and that we have 1 boat per member. And we want to ensure that so that the possibility of somebody frauding or, bankrolling a whole bunch of votes isn't going to be very easy to do. If you have a question on the current system, we have 2 experts here on that. They're both judges. Does anybody want to talk about the current system that we will be using?
You said per member, but you meant per household, did you not?
Yeah, well, okay. Household to me was a member, yes.
Probably member number.
Yeah, that member number that you have for your family. Good point. Thank you. Sir.
Yeah, are you going to have a more formal announcement, or do you just want to say it now? I was here because I was going to propose a solution, here at the town hall meeting.
I wonder if you might speak at the microphone, please? No, I can't hear you.
Sure. I'll let you use this one.
Wayne Worthington.
Yeah.
So anyway, there's been 2 concerns that I've read about as far as the voting for the people that I associate with. And one of them is the fraudulent, like he brought up. And the other issue is the privacy concern about your neighbors possibly seeing the way they vote. And well, I mean, I've read, there were tiers at some of the voting. I've been in part of the process, but the one I was in, they weren't signed, so I had no way of knowing at the voting process that I was involved in. But anyway, there's a simple low-tech solution that literally would cost less than $10 a vote to do that, that I'm capable of creating, that I would donate my time and my equipment to do. And basically, that would be, and of course, we'd have to run it past the attorneys, but that would be to create a barcode that encodes each member's ID into a barcode. You stick 1 barcode on the envelope, it's identical twin on the voting paper, and then they could either sign the envelope or through some other technique approved by the attorney. And then once you pull the ballot out, they verify the vote first with an electronic barcode reader, pull the vote out, hand it to the other ballot counter who never sees the envelope. The person that sees the envelope validates that person voted. You hand it to the other person who never can tell because it's a machine readable, not a human readable, and they tally the vote over here. Meanwhile, the envelope gets there. The beauty of this system is if you ever need to validate the voting, that barcode will tie that envelope together so you could later meet the 2 up to ensure that there was 1 vote, 1 thing. The system would also, before you ever even open the envelope, you would scan the barcode and it would record that vote electronically within y'all's domain, like on a laptop or a computer or something in your domain. And then at the end of the day, that information could be used through your PPOA people, could be exported to the website, and then a member could go type in their member number to ensure what time that their vote was counted. And there would be no association with how you voted, just that your vote was counted and what time it was counted. And all this could be done electronically. It would be extremely quick and be extremely inexpensive. So that's just what I wanted to say.
That's a really great idea, and we've talked a lot about how to do this vote, and one of the things is the state law requires a signature.
Yeah.
I really,
Chris, do you want to explain our current system so that we can answer that question on security?
I think more on the detail of what we're doing now.
I'm coming to you.
and while he's getting there, I really have concerns about our signature being on our ballot immediately adjacent to our vote, and that just goes against the notion of anonymous election. So
do is scribble your name and you read your document.
well, I know.
There is no signature required under state law if you're doing it electronically.
Well,
and that's what we're looking at, is doing it through the internet so that you would get your ballot in the mail, and then you could go on the internet and put your vote in on that basis. That's one of the processes we're looking at, and we'll certainly consider what the gentleman brought up here. We're not closed on anything. But anyway, we're looking at several companies right now and what they can offer. in response to automation of our electronic. Oh my God, you don't have enough time. It's very labor intensified. I'm not going to tell you about stuffing envelopes manually, and looks like we're going to about 9 or 10 inserts coming to you, hopefully the first of the next month. But regardless of that, when it comes back to us, it comes into the ballot boxes. 99% of what we get, people deposit in the ballot boxes up in the lobby. And basically, the day before our annual meeting, a group of people, and again, we're going to need some volunteers. I'm going to ask people who haven't volunteered. There's a sign-up sheet out here. We accept everybody. Basically, we take what is in those boxes and bring them down, and we sort them in order. Then we have a group of people that have a listing of the 1,000s, 2,000s, 3,000s. They're sorted down, handed to these clerks, 2 clerks. Those 2 clerks go through, find a name on the list.
Number, no name.
I knew she'd have to correct me. That's your senior judge sitting over there. She had a...
Just don't say name. There's never any name unless somebody puts a return address.
Well, we don't see a name really until we open up the envelope. But yes, you'll get an envelope, and a blue envelope, and there's a white tag on it in the top left-hand corner. Anyway, that's given to 2 clerks. One of them calls out the number. The other one marks it off on the sheet with a V. The envelope is put a V on it, okay? And basically they're put all back into the boxes and held to the next morning.
Unopened.
Beg pardon?
Unopened.
Unopened, well, yes, unopened. Thank you. She'll correct me no matter what I say. This is as bad as my wife.
Make sure a good senior judge.
That's right. You're right. That's why she's there. Anyway, the next morning, what we do is we get in early, however many people we can find, and we're going to need a bunch this time around, apparently. We have a group that opens up those envelopes. They verify that on that blue envelope that had the white sticker on it, which had the number, their number, and the number of votes they had, okay? You forgot to tell them about verifying the number of votes.
Just some slack. I figured you'd get to it.
Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, they open up that blue envelope and pull it out to make sure that whatever number's on the front of that envelope, it could be 1 up to 4 or 5. Some people have that many pieces of property out here, and that's how many votes they get. And basically what they'll sort down is the ballots, however many we got. Like we did the EMS recently. Fortunately, we only had 1 ballot in there. This time around, it sounds like we're going to have about 5 or 6 maybe. We'll see. And basically, we have to separate those. And then we bunch them up in 50 at a time, and we send them to another group, and that group then puts them together with a tally sheet or 2 tally sheets. And those tally sheets sit down with 2 other clerks, and they call out what it's for or against. Or if you're doing the ballot for the directors, there's 6 or 7 of them, they've got to mark that down. So their tally sheet has to come out with a total of 50. If it doesn't, then it may go to somebody else or switch hands. But there takes 2 of them. Both of them have to sign off. And then after that, it goes to another group, and they take and total up each of these sheets so that we come up with a total number of yays or nays. And that's what's reported to the board. Now, we cannot stop doing anything until the board calls their meeting to order on that Saturday. We have to continue to accept envelopes. So when they have their meeting, they close the tally off. And then we start. They usually take a break or do whatever they've got to do until we have the final total. There was one year, many years ago, that we had so many issues on the ballot that we had used a whole pack area, and we didn't finish till 7 o'clock at night, the final vote. So it's very labor intensive. And that's why we're looking at some other method that is a lot easier.
Except it's cheap, because all these labor works for free. That's the only thing good about it. I love to have it be electronic.
Do we?
The only additional comment she has to make, if you volunteer, you get a free breakfast.
Are there any other questions that one of the two of them could answer? Yes, sir. I'm glad I have two experts here.
A couple years ago, we did a survey when I was chairman of the Long Range Planning Committee, and we sent it out to the entire membership. This was in regard to several issues that we were looking at. But we found that not everyone had a computer, so I think you're going to have a fallback for those that. Okay.
That's one of the things that we're looking at. At the first few years, we know that we're going to have a paper version requirement until everybody gets into where they have access or are willing to come to a central place to put in if needed. That's one of the many variables that we're looking at. Any others? Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't the bylaws or HOA in general automatically make you have to have ballot backup for voting?
Repeat her question, Joe.
She's saying that we have to have a paper backup. Right now, we keep them on file for 15 days after the election. I haven't read that, and I've been looking. Have you seen the requirement?
We do not.
Okay, yeah. Not that we have found. So please come forward and talk to us, because that's what the type of things we're running into, is that it's a kind of a circle, and the more we dig, the more confused we get. Any other questions? Good questions, thank you.
If we go to electronic, how do we be sure that there's no Russian involvement?
I haven't got to the cybersecurity yet. I was going to say, if the Russians were that desperate, man, that would hurt. Okay. I'm like, oh, okay, Bob has one more thing. That's it.
If anybody owns stock.
If anyone owns stock, annually you get a report from the company saying, and they give you a little card along with a lot of other information, and basically you have the option with that to send the card in by mail or do it over the web. And that appears to us right now to be the best solution, because we do know there's some people out here who do not have access to a computer and won't get access to a computer. So we're still going to probably, for the time being, until they all die off or we die off, we'll have to have that facility in place so everybody has the opportunity to vote. We cannot forego anyone.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Okay, two more things real quickly. One other initiative that we're looking at to roll out this year is a member satisfaction survey. We think that if we're going to move forward as an organization to provide a higher level of service, we need to be able to determine what kind of service are we delivering. Michael is working on that. We're hoping to roll out the first survey sometime in April. We hope to do 2 surveys a year. It'll be a survey comprehensive about all the different functions and departments, and we're looking for feedback to see what are we doing well and where can we improve. The last thing that we're going to look at in 2018 is a restructuring of our organization. We've had the current structure, and I'm talking about the management structure, the overall management of the PPOA and the PPCC. So we're going to look at, are there ways that we can be more effective, more efficient, more streamlined, lower costs, and provide a higher level of management for our members and employees. We're just starting on this, so we're going to be looking for volunteers to help us as we go through that. We're hoping to get the restructuring done before the end of the year. Over the years, there's been kind of it's hard to sometimes differentiate between things that are in the PPOA and things that are in the PPCC. So we're hoping to get a better understanding of how things are operating, where things belong, and with that we hope to get some efficiencies and hopefully some cost savings as well. And Mr. President, unless anybody has any questions, that's all I have.
I'd say this is an open town hall meeting. Are there any other issues that anyone wishes to bring? Joe, I know your hand is up. Is it up or not? Yes. Okay, you have 2 minutes.
2 minutes? You cut 1 minute off? Can I have my 5 seconds back, please? I want my 5 seconds back. Well, I guess the questions I have, Ross, you were talking about this list of projects that are going to be combined to come up with this, to be funded over a period of X number of years with the $9 increase. My question is this list etched in stone, or is it subject to change? As things change here, or attitudes change here, or priorities change, I mean, you're voting for something now that may not take place for 5 years, and that's difficult for people to do when all of a sudden priorities do change. We all know that in our own budgets, that priorities change. Is there a mechanism to say, no, we're not going to fund this one, we're going to do this instead?
Part of the reason that you have a board of directors is to make a decision on what things go forward. As it comes to funding, some projects are more expensive than others. Some projects are easier to do than others. So, and our priorities are going to always change. What we may put on the list to be done in the next 5 to 7 years could be changed next week if we have something catastrophic happen here that we're not prepared for. So one of the challenges we have is determining which of the projects do we think are viable to be done next year that we need funding for, and which projects do we think that the committees have spoken. They've told us which projects they think they want us to move forward with. Whether or not we have the funding for that is going to depend on whether or not we get approval for the ballot initiatives and what we have in our capital reserve funds to pay for projects moving forward.
Well, can we have a discussion amongst the residents other than just the amenity survey that goes out? Can there be a discussion at Town Hall on these projects once they're determined? Because I have a feeling there's going to be a project on that I am vehemently opposed to that doesn't make any sense for this community, and it's a very expensive one. And I think the residents should have a chance to listen to other points of view and then say yes or no on some of these projects.
Well, ultimately, I mean, we're going to have town hall meetings as we move forward on the ballot initiatives. We'll have an opportunity for members to learn more about what's involved in those. Ultimately, members get a yay or nay. They're going to say yes, move forward, or no, don't move forward when they cast their votes. The reason that we have the committee process is these committees have worked in some cases for a couple of years to move their initiatives forward. They've come to us, they've gone through the camp process, they've gone through the long-range planning process, we've looked at the finances. We now have to determine which of these do we think we're ready to move forward with, what's going to be the time frame for getting that done, and ultimately how we're going to pay for it. We're going to lay all that out to members before the election in March, so members will have a chance to look at it, provide input, but at this point, it's too late in the game to add new projects, or to probably we're not going to go to committees that have worked for 10 months to put together a project and say, well, we don't think we're going to put it on the ballot this year. They've gone through the process. We're going to have to decide whether it goes forward or not.
But we don't even know what those projects are.
Could I add something to that conversation, Joel? There are 2 town hall meetings that will be dedicated to that ballot issue. The first one will be on January the 24th, and the second one will be on February the 13th. And at that time, the committees are going to speak to their projects. And you asked the question about, is there a flexibility in terms of maybe something that a committee has proposed, even knowing that it's scheduled for 2022, for instance? Because what we're really trying to do is, for the first time, do long-range planning. And long-range planning is not a 1 year. It's a 5 to 7 year plan. Really, it should be longer, but to allow flexibility, something may come off that list because it's no longer a necessary component of what our members need. So there's not a carved in stone, but what we will be asking members to approve are these projects. So if and when they go forward and funding is available, then they can go forward. So
the problem I see with that, Bev, is I've had people come to me and say, this is being presented as an increase in dues, as an all-inclusive, this is the package that you're voting for. And a lot of them have expressed tremendous amount of saying, geez, this is either an all or nothing type of vote. And this is what I'm trying to say. You may not win this type of vote and move forward on any of these projects if there isn't some mechanism within the actual planning itself saying, okay, we looked at this project a second time. Yes, Ross, I understand committees have put in a lot of work, but sometimes when it's presented to the membership, they go, wait a minute, we have concerns here or there. And that's what I hope the town halls are for, that we can possibly make some recommendations as members to do this. Yes.
Joe, I got one comment to make here. The committees are made up with the members of this community, and they come up with many, many ideas, and they talk about it. It gets spread out all over the camp. All kinds of rumors get spun up. We don't know what these things are. As soon as we're fighting this right now. In fact, we have to come back tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock to discuss exactly what's going to go forward. So I think what we can say to you, I think with confidence, is that when we know what's going to go forward, you'll be the first to know. But we don't know right now.
Okay.
We have an idea. We have an idea from the committees, but when we know, you know. Okay. I promise you that, Joe.
Yeah, as long as the members understand that
we do.
It's not etched in stone, that something happens later on 2 years
Hello, so you made that point. Your 2 minutes are almost up, Joe.
And only one other thing. On the subject of committees, can we please have some term limits on some committees? I don't know whether, not necessarily the Marina Committee, where it's only involving people that are interested in Marina, et cetera, but some of the major committees here, there have been members on it forever and ever and ever, and maybe it's time to look at a change where we rotate. They can serve on the committee for 8 years and then move.
You know what's good about being on this board of directors? We have a term limit.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Joe,
limit for you guys.
The committee resolutions are real specific that a membership on a committee is for 1 year, and each year people sign up. There's sign-up sheets that will go out in the front desk the day of the annual election for members to start signing up. So a membership on a committee is for 1 year. If the same people keep on signing up for the committees, they keep on getting to stay on the committee. So every year your board encourages people to go out there and sign up for committees to be considered to be on the committee.
Well, I understand that, but
well,
if there are
it doesn't sound like you do.
If there are more qualified candidates, I've heard from residents here that they've asked to sign up for a committee and they've been denied it, and the same other members are still on that committee. Now, I'm not saying that's true. This is what you're fighting in rumors, in a sense. But I know there are committees here where I'm sure people would sign up for if they ever thought they had a chance to get on the committee.
Okay, thank you. I'd like to comment on the process for selecting projects in this community. In our deliberations, and I promise you've been working on this for weeks, it's become clear that we're not going to get 100% of our community supporting any one project. We didn't even get 100% of our community supporting the EMS proposal. So we don't think that we're going to have 100% support for any of the projects that we propose. But this is, as Beverly said, this is a shared amenities community. And so we try to provide amenities that will attract different segments of the community. And we hope that we have enough people in the community that look at each one of those as enhancing the overall quality of life here. And so if I never go the 19th hole, and I'm going to support it because I know that Bob Cote is there every Wednesday night. And but really, that's
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
Wednesday, Thursday, Friday.
How about Saturday? In fact, they're waiting for me down there right now.
Okay, I think you're making my point. Yeah, but I'll never play a hole of golf in my life, and yet I support all the proposals to support enhancing our golf course and that amenity. So you keep that in mind as we present these projects to the community. These are projects that member committees have developed because they will provide a resource to segments of our community that, again, enhance the overall quality of life here.
Bob, can I say?
Yeah, sure, Dick.
You're talking about the shared amenity concept, and I live and breathe in the air park, and that somehow seems to have a lightning rod. I don't know why. But one of the newest amenities we have here at Pecan is the archery and air gun range. And one of our pillars of our community complained to me one time about how we were spending all this money on that range. And I said, well, you know, one aspect here is that has become really popular, especially with young kids. The grandparents have their grandchildren come out for the summer, and that becomes an activity they can take part in. And it's evolved to the point where there's now regional competitions where people will travel to Pecan Plantation to have a weekend competition on that range. And I said to this fellow, who knows, when you get ready to sell your house, maybe somebody who found out about Pecan through the air gun archery range will buy your house. So we don't know where these amenities are going to take us, but that's the concept of the shared amenity fund. You may or may not, or not fund, but concept. You may or may not participate, but you still will get a benefit from it. And another example is, as long as we're talking about the lightning rod of the airport, the airport group puts together that fly-in once a year that's a community service. And out of that, we for years have given rides to young children from the age of, I think, 13 to 18, 17, something like that. And we've expanded the program lately to include old farts. So now anybody can come up and get a ride. And I gave 21 rides.
Technical term?
It's a technical term.
Now be careful if you go up with Dick, because he's going to turn you upside down.
I gave 21 rides in an open cockpit World War II airplane at the last fly-in, and that's a community service that the airport provides to our community. So keep that in mind too. You may not fly the airplanes out of there. Another way is you might have a friend who flies in and lands at our airport to come visit you. So there's a use for the airport. So.
All right. Do we have any other items on the agenda? Any other issues from the audience? If not, then we're adjourned. Thank you all so much for staying.